The grand chamber of the Stellar Coalition's High Council glowed with soft blue light from the floating screens that surrounded the circular room. Fleet Commander Marcus stood at the center, his weathered face reflecting the gentle illumination. His four-fingered hand gripped the podium tightly, the scars on his gray skin telling stories of battles long past. "Honorable members of the Council," he began, his voice carrying the weight of decades of military service. "I stand before you today, not as a decorated commander, but as someone who has seen the truth about humans firsthand." The council members shifted in their seats. Some looked bored, others annoyed. They had heard many stories about primitive species before. To them, humans were just another race to be brought into the Coalition's embrace, willing or not. Marcus activated his personal display, and images of Earth's battles appeared in the air around him. "During the Void War, I fought alongside humans. What you see as a primitive species that hasn't even colonized their own solar system properly is something else entirely." A young admiral named Reed snorted from his observer's seat. His pristine uniform and unmarked skin showed his lack of combat experience. Marcus ignored him and continued, "Humans don't think like us. When we face defeat, we retreat and regroup. When humans face defeat, they dig deeper, they fight harder. They simply refuse to accept loss as an option." Marcus swept his hand through the floating images, bringing up footage from the Battle of Proxima. Here, 3 human ships faced a void fleet of 15 vessels. Standard military doctrine would call for immediate retreat. Instead, they charged straight at the enemy. The footage showed small Earth ships weaving between enemy fire. They rammed the enemy flagship, sacrificing one of their vessels to take out the command ship. Then they used the debris as cover to destroy 3 more ships. Admiral Reed stood up. "With all due respect, Commander, that was 10 years ago. Our intelligence shows humans still using chemical rockets for space travel. They haven't even developed proper gravity control." Marcus turned to face Reed directly. "And that doesn't strike you as strange, Admiral? A species that helped us defeat the Void, suddenly appearing to regress." He turned back to the Council. "I've seen humans turn mining ships into warships in hours. I've watched them patch hull breaches with nothing but emergency sealant and raw determination. When a human captain tells you they would rather die than surrender, they mean it literally." The head counselor raised a hand. "Commander Marcus, while we respect your service record, your concerns seem excessive. The Coalition has incorporated hundreds of species. Humans will adapt, as all others have." Marcus shook his head slowly. "Humans don't just adapt, they evolve. They transform. During the Void War, I saw them create new weapons and tactics daily. They called it battlefield innovation. Their soldiers would modify their equipment in the field, sharing improvements across their fleet faster than any official channel could." He pointed to Earth's image floating above them. "Right now, they appear primitive because they choose to appear primitive. They're watching us, learning from us. If you try to force them into the Coalition, you will be fighting an enemy that already knows all your tactics, all your technology, all your weaknesses." "That's enough, Commander." The head counselor's voice carried a note of finality. "The Council has already voted. Earth will be offered membership in the Coalition. If they refuse..." He left the threat hanging. Marcus straightened his back. "Then I officially request my objection be recorded. What you're planning isn't diplomacy, it's provocation. And if you provoke humans, you will learn why every survivor of the Void War thanks the stars that humans were on our side." As Marcus walked out of the chamber, Admiral Reed was already discussing fleet movements with his staff. The council members quickly moved on to other matters, dismissing the old commander's warnings as paranoid ramblings of a veteran who had spent too much time with primitives. None of them noticed that the human observation satellite above their capital world had recorded everything. And none of them would realize their mistake until it was far too late. The Coalition's diplomatic fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 6 sleek vessels, their silver hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight, moved with careful precision. Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Dawn, watching the primitive detection systems of Earth tracking his ships. "They're still using radio waves," he said with a smirk. "Prepare the first contact package. Let's show these humans what real civilization looks like." The Coalition's message broadcast across all frequencies, offering Earth membership in their Grand Alliance. The response came hours later, a simple request for a face-to-face meeting on their International Space Station. "They can't even build a proper orbital habitat," Reed muttered as he watched the approaching station through his viewport. The human structure spun slowly, creating artificial gravity through rotation instead of using proper gravitational field generators. The human delegation arrived in a small shuttle. Reed noticed how they carefully matched speeds with his ship, showing more skill than he expected from chemical rockets. The human leader, wearing a plain blue uniform, stepped onto his ship and smiled. "Welcome to Earth's solar system," the human said. "I'm Director Thompson of the Earth Space Council. We're honored by your invitation to join the Coalition." Reed nodded, hiding his surprise at their grasp of Coalition standard language. "The benefits of membership are numerous. We can help advance your civilization by centuries." "That's very generous," Thompson replied. "However, we'll need time to discuss this with all Earth nations, perhaps 3 months to reach a consensus." Reed frowned. "The Coalition has set a deadline of 1 standard month. We have many other species waiting for membership." Thompson's smile didn't waver. "I understand, but our political system requires thorough discussion. Rushing this decision could create problems." From his quarters on the support vessel, Marcus watched the meeting through secure channels. He noticed things the others missed: the slight tension in Thompson's shoulders, the way the human's eyes tracked every movement on the bridge, cataloging strengths and weaknesses. "They're assessing us," he muttered, "just like I warned them." Over the next 2 weeks, Earth sent countless questions about Coalition technology, society, and military structure. Reed saw it as primitive curiosity. Marcus saw it as intelligence gathering. Then came the notification that Earth needed 6 months for proper consideration. Reed's patience snapped. "Enough games," he announced to his command staff. "We'll show them what happens to worlds that waste the Coalition's time. Move the fleet into position near Mars." Marcus immediately sent a message to the Council. "The humans are testing us. Any show of force will be met with resistance. Stop this now." The Council ignored him. Reed positioned his ships in a clear display of military might, making sure Earth's sensors could detect them. He waited for panic, for desperate calls begging to speed up negotiations. Instead, Earth went silent. "Sir," Reed's sensor officer called out, "we're detecting movement from Earth's direction." "Their station." "They're primitive shuttles," Reed asked dismissively. "No, sir. Multiple objects leaving Earth's atmosphere. They appear to be." The officer paused, checking readings again. "They look like old-style chemical rockets, but there's something odd about their signatures." Marcus watched from his quarters as hundreds of primitive rockets launched from Earth. He noticed how they ignored standard flight paths, how they moved with too much precision for their apparent technology level. "Computer," he commanded, "send emergency message to Coalition High Command. The humans are not launching rockets. They're deploying their fleet." But before he could send it, his communications went dark. Through his window, he watched as lights across the Coalition fleet began to flicker and die. The humans had made their first move, and it was exactly as he had feared. Admiral Reed paced on his darkened bridge. Emergency lights cast red shadows across worried faces as his crew worked to restore power to the Stellar Dawn. "Report," he barked. "What happened to our systems?" His chief engineer wiped sweat from his scales. "Sir, something got into our computer core. It's like nothing I've ever seen. The humans must have hidden a virus in their diplomatic messages." Reed slammed his fist on a dead console. "Impossible. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They're still using silicon chips. Down in his quarters, Marcus sat in the darkness, watching Earth through his window. He wasn't surprised when his personal tablet, isolated from the fleet's network, still worked perfectly. The humans had been selective in their attack. A message flashed across his screen. "Commander Marcus, please stand by for transmission from Earth Command." Before he could respond, Admiral Reed's voice boomed through the fleet's emergency channels. "This is your first and final warning, Earth. Your cyber attack is a direct violation of Coalition law. Surrender your leaders for trial or face immediate military response." The humans' reply came swiftly, playing on all channels, bypassing the fleet's damaged communications. Director Thompson's voice was cold and clear. "Admiral Reed, you positioned weapons of war near our Mars colonies. You threatened our sovereignty. Consider this our response. We reject Coalition membership. Leave our solar system immediately." Reed's face turned dark purple with rage. "Launch fighters. Target their lunar base." Marcus watched in horror as Coalition fighters streaked toward Earth's moon. Their weapons charged, ready to destroy the small human outpost there. But the fighters never reached their target. Tiny points of light rose from the lunar surface. What looked like simple defense platforms revealed themselves to be weapon batteries. Precise beams of energy cut through space, slicing Coalition fighters apart with surgical precision. "Impossible," Reed screamed. "They're supposed to be using projectile weapons." Marcus received another message on his tablet. "Commander, we remember. You fought honorably beside us in the Void War. Please move to your emergency pod. We don't wish to harm a friend." He understood immediately. "Computer, broadcast on all Coalition frequencies. This is Commander Marcus to all Coalition vessels. Evacuate all ships. The humans are not what we thought." Reed ordered his arrest, but the internal security systems were still offline. As Marcus headed for his escape pod, he felt the first tremors run through the ship. Hidden human warships emerged from behind Earth's moon, their hulls dark and angular, nothing like the primitive rockets they'd first detected. They moved with impossible speed, their weapons tearing through Coalition shields as if they weren't there. "Sir," Reed's tactical officer shouted, "these readings, their ships are more advanced than ours." Marcus sealed himself in his escape pod as chaos erupted across the Coalition fleet. Through the small window, he watched Earth's true military power reveal itself. What they had thought were clumsy rockets now shed their outer shells, revealing sleek warships beneath. Reed's voice crackled one last time over the fleet channel. "All ships, open fire. Show these primitives the power of the Coalition." The response was devastating. Human ships danced through space, avoiding Coalition fire with ease. Their return shots disabled rather than destroyed, showing both mercy and superiority. As his escape pod launched, Marcus received one final message. Pod identified as friendly. Safe passage granted. Thank you for trying to warn them, Commander. Marcus watched the Coalition's mighty fleet, pride of their civilization, reduced to drifting hulks in less than an hour. No ships destroyed, no lives lost, but every vessel disabled and powerless. The humans had achieved total victory without taking a single life. It was, Marcus realized, both a demonstration of power and a warning. The real war hadn't even started yet, and he knew with cold certainty that his warnings about human capability had actually underestimated their true power. The Coalition High Council chamber erupted in chaos as reports from Earth reached them. Emergency lights flashed as more updates poured in from across Coalition space. Impossible. The head counselor shouted. How did they infiltrate our core world so quickly? On the main screen, reports showed Coalition military bases going dark across dozens of systems. Space stations reported complete system failures. Trading posts lost all power. And in every case, no lives were lost. Just complete technological shutdown. Marcus stood in the corner of the chamber, now a free man again. The council had quickly released him from house arrest, desperate for his insight. I tried to tell you, he said quietly. Humans never show their full strength until they need to. What you saw as primitive technology was just their public face. A junior counselor ran in with new reports. "Sir, we're detecting human ships in coalition space, but they're coming from inside our territory." Marcus nodded. "Think about all those human traders and tourists who visited coalition worlds over the past 10 years. Those weren't just visitors. They were setting up forward bases, hiding ships, preparing for this moment." Admiral Reed's voice crackled over the emergency channel, his transmission delayed and broken. "Council, humans have complete control of Earth system. Our ships are being towed to Mars orbit." The head counselor slumped in his chair. How did we miss this level of technology?" "Because you saw what you wanted to see," Marcus explained. "Those primitive rockets, decoys, they're lunar defense platforms, just the tip of their military power. Even I never saw their full capability during the Void War. They only used what was necessary, never more." New alerts flashed across the screens. Human ships had appeared near every major coalition world. Not warships, but massive vessels of unusual design. "What are those?" a counselor asked, fear in his voice. Marcus studied the images and actually smiled. "Those are human medical ships and repair vessels. Even now they're offering help. This isn't an invasion. It's a demonstration." As if confirming his words, a transmission from Earth began playing throughout the chamber. Director Thompson's face appeared on all screens. "To the Coalition High Council," he began, his voice calm and measured. "We regret the need for this display of force, but your military left us no choice. We are not your enemies. We do not wish to be your conquerors. We only wish to be your equals." The council watched in stunned silence as Thompson continued. "Our ships are currently positioned to assist any coalition citizens affected by our defensive measures. We will help repair all disabled vessels and facilities. No one has been harmed, and no one will be harmed if peace prevails." Marcus stepped forward. "Don't you understand? This is why they're so dangerous and so valuable as allies. They could have destroyed everything, but instead, they're showing mercy. They disabled our ships without casualties. They're offering medical aid to worlds they just defeated." The head counselor finally found his voice. "And if we refuse their help?" "Look at the readings again," Marcus said. "Those medical ships, they're more powerful than our best warships." "That's not a threat. It's just a fact. Humans build even their humanitarian vessels to be capable of defense." A final message from Thompson appeared. "We await your response. The choice between war and peace is yours. But remember, what you've seen is only a fraction of our capability. We would rather be friends than enemies, but we will never be subjects." Marcus watched the council members exchange glances. They finally understood what he had tried to tell them. Humans hadn't spent the last decade catching up to coalition technology. They'd spent it preparing for every possible scenario, building networks of allies, and positioning themselves to end a war before it could truly begin. And they had done it all while making the coalition think they were harmless primitives who barely understood space travel. Admiral Reed stood in his private quarters on the coalition base orbiting their capital world. His hand shook as he read the latest reports. Despite the Council's attempts to open peace talks, he had secretly ordered his remaining loyal ships to launch a surprise attack on Earth's medical vessels. The results were devastating. For the coalition forces, the human medical ships had transformed in seconds, their hulls shifting like liquid metal, revealing weapon systems that made their previous displays of power look primitive. Not a single coalition ship had even gotten close enough to fire. "Admiral," his computer sparked to life, displaying Director Thompson's face. "We warned you. Now we must respond." Across coalition space, hidden human bases activated. What had appeared to be simple research outposts and trading stations suddenly revealed their true nature. Massive shipyards emerged from beneath the surfaces of dead moons. Defense platforms rose from the depths of gas giants. In the council chamber, Marcus watched the reports flood in with a grim expression. 10 years, he said to the horrified council members. They spent 10 years building all of this, right under our noses. Every trade mission, every scientific exchange, every tourist visit, they were preparing. The head counselor's scales had turned pale. How many bases do they have? You don't understand, Marcus replied. Those aren't just bases. They're fully automated shipyards. Humans don't build ships the way we do. Their factories can adapt, can change what they're producing in hours instead of months. As if to prove his point, new signals appeared on the tactical displays. Massive ships were emerging from the hidden shipyards, each one larger than the last. But these weren't warships. They were mining vessels, construction ships, and terraforming platforms. Watch, Marcus said softly. This is what I tried to warn you about. Humans don't just fight wars. They remake entire systems. The human ships began working with incredible speed. Asteroids were moved into precise positions. Gas giants were harvested for fuel. Barren moons were seeded with atmosphere generators. They're not destroying our worlds, a junior counselor whispered. They're building something. Director Thompson's face appeared again on the main screen. People of the Coalition, despite Admiral Reed's attempt to target our medical vessels, we maintain our offer of peace. What you're witnessing is not an invasion. It's an invitation. The screens filled with images of the human construction projects. They were building habitats, research stations, and trading posts, but at a scale the Coalition had never imagined possible. While your leaders saw us as primitives, Thompson continued, we were learning from every civilization in the galaxy. We didn't just copy your technology. We improved it, enhanced it, combined it with our own innovations. Marcus stepped forward. Now you see why I feared provoking them. Humans don't think in terms of simple victory or defeat. They think in terms of complete transformation. They're not interested in ruling the Coalition. They want to rebuild it, to make it better. Admiral Reed's voice crackled through the chamber. They're monsters. Look at how they've hidden among us, building their secret bases. No, Marcus replied firmly. They're engineers, builders. They spent 10 years creating a network that could either help uplift the entire Coalition or completely shut it down. And they're still choosing to help, even after being attacked. The Council watched in awe as the human construction fleets continued their work. In just hours, they had accomplished what would have taken the Coalition decades. And this, Marcus knew, was just the beginning of how humans would transform the galaxy. Admiral Reed stood on his last remaining battleship, the Eternal Might, watching his tactical display. He had gathered every ship still loyal to him. 30 vessels that had escaped the humans' initial shutdown of Coalition forces. This ends today, he growled. Plot a course for Earth. If we can't have their technology, no one will. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, Marcus received an urgent message on his tablet. His eyes widened as he read it. Reed's gone mad, he announced to the council. He's gathering ships for a suicide run at Earth. He plans to trigger their main reactors all at once, trying to create a blast that would devastate the solar system. The head counselor jumped to his feet. Can we warn the humans? They already know, Marcus replied, pointing to the main screen. The display showed thousands of small objects appearing throughout Coalition space. They looked like simple satellites at first, but then they began to move. They flowed together like schools of fish, forming larger structures. Nanite swarms, Marcus explained. The humans didn't just hide bases in our territory. They seeded entire regions of space with microscopic machines, each one too small to detect, but together. The swarms continued to combine, taking shape into massive vessels that dwarfed anything the Coalition had ever built. But these weren't the sleek, efficient designs of previous human ships. These were different, organic-looking, almost alive. Director Thompson's face appeared on all screens across Coalition space. Admiral Reed, this is your final warning. Stand down your forces. Never. Reed's voice crackled back. Fire everything. For the glory of the Coalition. His fleet launched their attack, weapons blazing. But the human nanite ships simply absorbed every blast, using the energy to grow stronger. They moved like living creatures, flowing around Coalition weapons fire as if it was meaningless. Marcus watched in awe. This is why they waited, why they let us think we had a chance. They weren't just showing restraint, they were holding back their true capabilities out of mercy. The nanite ships surrounded Reed's fleet, not firing a single shot. Instead, tendrils of microscopic machines extended from their hulls, enveloping the Coalition vessels. Within minutes, every ship in Reed's fleet simply stopped. What? What are they doing? The head counselor asked. Look closer, Marcus said quietly. The screens showed Reed's ships beginning to change. The nanites weren't destroying them. They were rebuilding them, transforming them into something new. Weapons disappeared, replaced by scientific instruments. Military sensors became long-range exploration equipment. Your weapons have been removed. Thompson's voice echoed through every ship. Your vessels have been repurposed for peaceful exploration. Admiral Reed, your crew will be safe, but you will stand trial for attempting to trigger a catastrophic event in populated space. Reed's enraged scream cut off as his communications were silenced. The Coalition Council sat in stunned silence, watching as the transformed ships were gently guided back to Coalition space. Now you understand, Marcus said to the Council. Humans could have done this at any time. They could have transformed our entire civilization with these nanites. Instead, they waited, watched, and only acted when they had no choice. The head counselor nodded slowly. They wanted us to choose peace on our own. Yes, Marcus replied. And they're still offering that choice. Look. The massive nanite ships were dissolving, breaking back down into their component parts. The tiny machines flowed out into space, becoming invisible once again, present but unseen, ready but waiting. The message was clear. Humans had the power to remake the galaxy, but they would only use it when necessary. The choice between war and peace remained with the Coalition. 1 year had passed since the Coalition learned the true extent of human capabilities. The Council chamber looked very different now. Humans and Coalition species sat together, discussing the future of their united civilizations. Marcus, now serving as the chief diplomat between the two powers, stood at the center of the chamber. The integration has exceeded all expectations, he reported. Human technology has helped us terraform 12 dead worlds into habitable planets. Our joint medical research has cured 3 diseases that plagued Coalition species for centuries. And our combined space exploration teams have mapped more of the galaxy in 1 year than we did in the previous 50. The head counselor, now co-chair with Director Thompson, nodded in approval. And what of Admiral Reed? He chose rehabilitation, Marcus replied. The humans offered him a chance to learn, to understand why they act as they do. He's currently helping design new exploration vessels, combining Coalition and human technology. Suddenly, all screens in the chamber lit up with emergency signals. A massive fleet of unknown ships had appeared at the edge of Coalition space. Their designs were completely alien, their weapons unlike anything ever seen before. The unknown ships broadcast a message in all known languages. Your territory is now our territory. Surrender or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. The head counselor turned to Director Thompson. Can we fight them? Thompson smiled calmly. We don't have to. He pressed a button on his console. This is Earth Command to all human vessels in the sector. Protocol Guardian is now active. Across Coalition space, thousands of hidden human defense platforms activated. The nanite swarms that had remained dormant since Reed's defeat emerged from their hiding places. But this time, they didn't form ships. Instead, they created a vast network, a web of energy and matter that spread across the entire Coalition territory. Every human trading post, every joint research station, Every transformed coalition ship became part of this massive defense grid. The alien fleet fired their weapons, only to see their energy attacks absorbed and redirected harmlessly into space. Their ships tried to move forward, but found themselves trapped in fields of altered spacetime. This is why we prepared so thoroughly, Thompson explained to the amazed council. We knew other threats existed in the galaxy. Everything we built here, the hidden bases, the nanite swarms, the transformed ships, they're all part of a single defense system. We weren't just protecting ourselves from you. We were preparing to protect you from them. Marcus watched as the alien fleet tried desperately to break free. You knew they were coming. We suspected someone was out there, Thompson replied. During the Void War, we detected signals, movements that didn't match known patterns. That's why we spent 10 years building this network. The Coalition didn't just gain allies when they accepted peace with Earth, they gained guardians. The alien fleet, realizing their weapons were useless, attempted to retreat. But the human defense network had already analyzed their technology, adapted to it, and rendered their engines useless. Your choices are simple, Thompson broadcast to the alien ships. Peace or containment. We don't destroy potential allies, but we do protect our friends. The council chamber erupted in cheers as the alien fleet stood down. Coalition members finally understood why humans had been so prepared, why they had hidden their true power, why they had chosen peace even when provoked. Marcus smiled, remembering his warnings from a year ago. He had been right about human capabilities, but even he hadn't guessed their true purpose. They hadn't built their hidden network to conquer the Coalition, but to protect it. As celebrations broke out across Coalition space, Thompson turned to Marcus, ready to help us welcome some new potential allies into the galaxy. Marcus nodded. This time, he knew exactly what to tell them about humans, not just about their power, but about their wisdom in how they used it.